And welcome back to my channel. Unless you're new here, and then just welcome. My name is Rusty, and this is my channel where I talk about my favorite movies, mostly horror, and my favorite music, mostly metal. And tonight we are going to be talking about the 2008 cult classic, Dead Girl. Now, I've been trying to get a hold of this for a long time, and right before I bought it, I heard, I was just going to buy the old release, and then I heard that they were fixing to do a remaster, and so I waited around for that. And I'm very glad that I did. This is the Unearthed Films Special Collector's Edition remaster of Dead Girl. In slipcase. That wasn't cheap. Unearthed Films can do some good stuff when they want to. Yes. I have to show it off. Dead Girl. Now, Dead Girl was released in 2008. And it was written by Marcel Sarmiento, Gadi Harel. It was written by Trent, Haaga. Stars Shiloh Fernandez, Noah Segan, and Candice King. It most certainly was. My pretty blue beach screensaver. Okay, now, this is a fantastic, I absolutely adore this movie, obviously. I wouldn't have paid that amount of money for it. So, it's definitely an interesting alternate take on the zombie genre. And if you don't know about this movie, it is a zombie movie, but it is definitely a different one. And extremely disturbing. Very, very disturbing. So we're introduced to Ricky and JT. These are two high school brats. They're your typical, they're not jocks, they're not goths, they're not metalheads or anything. They're just those absolute worthless nothings. So we know that Richie is kind of hot for Joanne since they were in like 4th grade or something. They're all 17 now. They end up cutting class that day. JT has some beer. So they go, what are we going to do? Go somewhere to drink the beer. So they go and explore this abandoned mental hospital, this mental asylum. They drink and dick around, vandalizing. They explore all that, and then JT tells him about, that there are underground tunnels that lead from the main buildings so that they wouldn't have to bring the extremely dangerous patients outside and risk escape and stuff like that. So that's the scary part, And so they agree, or Richie agrees. They go down there and they look, and it is pretty spooky down there. And this scary black Doberman gets after them. It's like, where the fuck did that thing come from? You know what I'm saying? And they run from it, and through these different hallways, they kind of get a little lost, and they can't find their way back out, and they end up, running across this door that's like blocked off. They manage to get the stuff out the way, and it won't open because it's kind of rusted shut. So they do have to use a little effort to get the door open. And then when they get in there, they're like trying to find a way out of this place. They get into this room, and I think it's JT, starts like going, oh my God, I can't believe it. You got to come see this. And Ricky ends up going over there, and it looks like a body. It looks like a dead body. And it's got like clear plastic over the top of it. But when they get close to it, it moves. So that kind of like really freaks them out, that she moves. And then what is this? How could this person... Remember, they had to break the door, they had to break the door open. It was rusted. And this person is chained to a bed. You know what I'm saying? Like chained to a bed. and it's moving, and they don't understand what this is. How is she alive, in this rusted room? And then AJ starts, suggesting that they could keep her. This naked, looks kind of dead girl, that they could, like, keep her. And, Ricky at first is just like, what are you talking about? keep her. We need to get her help. You know what I'm saying? So he keeps on saying it, but AJ, he's like immediately got this idea, and it's like that he wants to keep her because he wants to do things to her. And Richie is kind of a little put off about that. And he's just like, to the point where AJ like clocks him. You know what I'm saying? He clocks him one because, you're not going to take this away from me, this thing that I found. So he goes home, he tells him to leave, and AJ stays there with it. And he goes home and he starts to call the cops, but then his mother's boyfriend starts talking to him, and it kind of irritates him and shit like that. So he kind of gets distracted. He doesn't call the cops. Instead, he goes off, and what is it? Who went off with a gun and is like firing at this abandoned place when AJ shows back up. So AJ finds him. Obviously, went to his house and looked for him. And he found him, and he wants him to come back with him because he's got something he needs to show him. And Ricky is like, I don't think so. I don't know what you're doing and what you have done, but I don't want to be a part of any of it. And he keeps on at him until he does convince him to come back, that he's got to come and see something. So when they get back to this place, he proceeds to tell him that he killed her. And Ricky's like, you brought me back here to be an accessory to your murder? I don't want nothing to do with this, right? But he keeps on saying, no, you don't get it. Like, I broke her neck, and I beat her, and she was dead, but yet she's not. Ricky's still not kind of like grasping the situation, so because he had that gun with him, AJ gets the gun from him and like shoots her 3 times in the chest. Freaks Ricky out to the point where Ricky drops. Okay, Ricky faints. When he grabs that gun and goes bam, bam, bam into the body, Ricky just falls out like a fucking virgin at a prison rodeo. I mean, he just faints. So when he wakes back up, he's like, I can't believe that you just did that, killed her in front of me. And he's like, that's just it, dude. Look, she's still alive. So, she won't bleed. She won't die. And then he says, now I've killed her 3 times. I beat her to death. I broke her neck. And now I shot her 3 times in the chest. And she's still alive. She's still moving. She's still okay. So they start like, well, what is she? Now we of course all know in zombie land that she's some kind of zombie. They're like, is she a medical experiment? What is this thing? But AJ wants to keep her. He wants to keep her as their secret. Oh, well, I can't say that online. I can't say that. What I wrote, I can't say. He wants to keep her and keep their secret, and he wants to keep her to have Kitty on tap. So Richie finally agrees to keep the secret, but he don't want no part of it, if you know what I mean. He don't want to tickle the kitty. He's just like, I'm not going to tell. Oh, this movie is so disturbing. So back at school, Ricky tries like researching, the the how, the what could this thing be, you know. He ends up going back to the place, but I think what he wanted to do was he wanted to go back and rescue her. He was like through with this shit. It was just all disturbing him. So he wanted to go back and do that. And when he gets back there, he walks into the, you know, goes down, goes through, goes to the basement, goes to the room. And there he finds his friend Wheeler, which is another boy from school, is just standing there humping it. And AJ is just standing there watching. I mean, AJ, I'm going to want to call him AJ. TJ. JT. I had so much problems writing this. I don't know why I can't. I just keep wanting to call him AJ. There's got to be somebody in horror that I'm thinking about an AJ. If you know, let me know. But it's JT. JT, not AJ. Okay. So anyway, JT is sitting there watching him. And Ricky's just like, you told somebody? Now, personally for me, you told somebody would be the least of my questions at the moment. You know, my question at the moment would be like, you're humping it. How gross. Not that it wouldn't already be gross, but anyway. So, he finds Wheeler humping it, humping the Zed, as JT is watching him. And he's Ricky gets upset about, JT having told Wheeler about it. I thought this was our secret. You know what I mean? Because you have to think, if somebody finds out what we have done, keeping this secret, we're going to go to jail. And now you've brought in another little perv to hump on a Zed, and the more people that know, the sooner we're going to go to prison, is basically his thinking. So they start both trying to convince him, like, oh, it's okay, it's all right. Wheeler's not going to tell anybody else. And besides, why don't you just quit fantasizing about it? Get you some. And Ricky's just like, I ain't doing that. I'm not going to do that. You cannot peer pressure me into humping the Zed. So he refuses to hump it. He ends up leaving again. This time he goes to a junkyard where he usually buys weed from, and instead he wants to borrow some bolt cutters. And I'm like, I'm not sure that's a good idea. I mean, I understand, and you're very noble for doing it, because you should have called the cops way back, but whatever. We're just going to do it in levels here. And I admire your fact that you want to, like, uncouple the Zed and let it go, or whatever you're planning on doing, but I just don't think it's a good idea, personally. So he wants to get her out of there, and he does go back. Nobody's there, and he does manage to cut off one of the chains, He manages to cut off one of the chains, but before he can finish, AJ and Wheeler show up. He goes and hides, and then AJ and Wheeler come out. AJ jumps on it like he's fizzing a hump. The thing's got one arm going. You can tell what happens, okay? She nearly gets his ass. Girl freaks out. And she nearly gets him. The two of them manage to get her tied back down, though. And Ricky runs. Rick is asked at school where Wheeler is by this other guy. And the guy he's like, why are you looking for Wheeler? And the guy tells Rick, he's like, because he told me if I gave him $10, he would show me something. Well, now that really pisses Ricky off, because Rick's like, oh, we're all going to go to prison because this motherfucker wants to, oh no, God. So he jumps on that boy, though, and tells him, it's like, don't you listen to him. He's just trying to get your money. He's a fucking idiot. Then he attacks Wheeler. Rick attacks Wheeler. Like, are you nuts? Now you're trying to... Don't do that. So, he confronts Wheeler about it. we're back at the girl, and we see Wheeler and JT. Yeah, we see Wheeler and JT talking about what she is or what she could be. We see Ricky talking to Joanne at school. You know, he's had a crush on her all this time anyway. Where then her boyfriend, who was it, John and Dyson? Dyson? Dywin? I can't. We'll figure it out later. But anyway, his two friends end up beating the shit out of Rick and Wheeler in the parking lot. You know, because Rick is always staring at Joanne. Oh, high school stuff. Straight people, I don't know. But, so he beats the shit out of both of them. You know, Johnny and his friend beat the shit out of Wheeler and Rick. Well, that causes that dumbass Wheeler to start screaming at him that we don't need her. We don't care about her. We've got our own sex slave and stuff like that. And, you know, Rick is like face palmed. You know, well, those guys, they come and get them and put them in the trunk. And it's like, okay, you know, we're going to put you in the boot of the car. You're going to take us to show us this sex slave, or we're going to beat you to death with a bat. So Rick is refusing because Rick is like, they're not going to kill us with the bat. They just, why did you do that? Why did you run your mouth? Now here you have got us in more trouble. Just shut up, you know. Well, they end up knocking Rick out when they get there, you know, because Rick's like, there's nothing here. They knock Rick out, and of course after they beat the shit out of Wheeler some more, he tells them and takes them to it. So now we have Johnny and his friend are standing over the dead girl, the zombie, going, what the fuck are you perverts doing? So AJ's standing there in his underwear as he starts explaining to them that this is what she's into. It's some 50 Shades of Grey shit, right? She likes to be tied up and beaten, and, you know, it's S&M and all that kind of stuff. That's what this is about. As a matter of fact, she likes being a slave. Why don't you get you some while you're here? Are you chicken? Are you pussies? Blah, blah, blah. So they use that little peer pressure to get John and Dwyer, that's his name. So they use this peer pressure to get John and Dwyer to do something. Well, John, he's like, I ain't sticking, no. They're like, well, then use the mouth. Because Dwyer, he's going to take the other end. And I'm like sitting there thinking, the second I saw that, I was like, are you really fixing to put your penis in a zombie's mouth? Somebody should tell him that's not a good idea. So, but see, Rick is pissed off, right? Because he got his ass beat about Joanne. That's Joanne's boyfriend. So, yeah, I kind of like to see his dick get bit off. So, he's the one who actually tries to get him to do the mouth. And like, oh, I'm not going to say it. Like a certain orientation of men, they are able to convince them to do it. And sure enough, I thought she would bite it off, but I guess he got it out quick. But she bit it. You know what I mean? And he wasn't happy about that. So, let me catch up. To try the mouth, yeah, she bites his dick, yeah. Now they're screaming. Of course, they got to take him to the hospital, or they're gonna, you know, they're gonna go to the cops. But JT logics them into what a bad idea that is, because what you gonna tell them? You know what I mean? How are you going to explain the fact that you were just walking through here and your penis was hanging out and you tripped and it fell in her mouth and she bit it? Is that what you're going to tell the cops? So I'm like, you know, that's definitely pretty good. I mean, it's like, you know. So anyway, it's like, you're not going to go to the cops because you're in this shit now too. Or, you know, so shut up or you're going to risk prison yourself. So AJ, of course, blames Rick for it all because you're the one that keeps messing with Joanne. You're the one that caused them to come here. All of this kind of stuff. So it's your fault to begin with. Ricky goes back to school. He tries to play for Joanne again, but she's like, "Get over it." There's tension, of course, now between Ricky and Wheeler. This is pretty fun. Now we see AJ like trying to put lipstick. He's like naked on top of her, I guess. And he's trying to put lipstick on her, trying to make her look better because, of course, you can imagine what Dwyer and John did to her face after she bit John's dick. It didn't, it didn't leave her attractive. Not that she was to begin with, but you get my point. So, he's trying to put lipstick on her mouth and all when that damn Doberman shows back up. And this time it's gotten into the room. Scares the shit out of him. He backs up. It jumps up there where he was. And that was a little too close to the Zed because she ripped that motherfucker in half with her mouth. So she killed the dog, and all AJ had to say about it all was, I guess we don't have to worry about that pooch no more. So he's insane. JT is just absolutely insane. He's just a psycho from hell, in my opinion. Now we're back in class, and Rick notices that something seems wrong with John back here behind him, and he don't look well. And I'm like, well, he's probably turning into a zombie, right? So he gets up, and they keep hearing all these weird noises, and they smell this weird smell. And John ends up like running out of the room, and he goes to the bathroom. He's sitting on the toilet, and he's making all these really awful sounds, and his stomach is making all these sounds. And then he stands up, and then you hear like an explosion, and like blood and stuff goes all over behind him. And for like these split-second scenes, you see that basically what happened was his guts, his intestines, just all exploded out his ass. And when, and sometimes it's very fortunate that I'm really good with the pause button and the step frame. There are so many nice things that you can catch that they don't want you to see. But this was one time after I did it, because I'm like, that was, what the fuck was that? Because, they show him laying on the floor after his ass explodes all over the wall, and I'm like, back, pause, step, 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 what, I just shouldn't have done that because you can't unsee that, can you? No, you really can't. That's all of his guts hanging out his ass. That was pretty gory. So he's in the hospital now trying to have his guts all put back up his ass, I guess. It didn't kill him, which I thought was strange, but so he's there. So his gut shoots out of his ass. Yeah. Okay, Dwyer goes back to the girl. That's his friend, right? Dwyer goes back to the girl to free her. He's going to cut the ropes and free her to take her to the hospital, right? Because he's worried about his friend. And it's like, she bit him. If I get her to the hospital, then they can maybe figure out how to save my friend or what's wrong with my friend, because her biting his dick is obviously what has caused him to become whatever's happening to him. Makes sense. So AJ TJ, JT is there and is like, no, you're really not going to do that because you're not taking my toy away from me. And this causes them to fight. He pulls Dwyer over the girl, and the girl bites him. And then he's like, okay, well, that's it. You're done for now. And you think that he killed him because you didn't really know. And we're going to see this when we analyze this at the end, and I give you my score and everything. This is the one place where a problem happened for me with this movie. So you assume that JT killed Dwyer, finished him off or something, right? That's what I assumed at the time. So AJ catches him. He gets the girl to bite him. AJ says, "You're dead now too." And then I assumed at this point that he had killed Dwyer. Now Rick goes nuts about all of this, getting spiraling out of control. Meanwhile, JT and Wheeler are sitting at a gas station, and I'm like thinking to myself, what are they talking about? Because they're sitting there going, we just have to wait for the right one to come along. Then I remembered when he got, when Dwyer told him about what happened to John, that's when AJ figured out that, him and Wheeler weren't sick. Nothing had happened to them. They had just been humping her. But she had not bit them or anything, so maybe there was no way for her fluid to get in them. So he figured this out. So now these two psychotic nutcases have decided, guess what? We can make all of the dead girls we want. We just kidnap them, get her to bite them, and then we've got another dead girl to play with. Sick. 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 Just sick. However, this does end up being a funny scene, because when they're at the gas station, and this one girl comes along, Wheeler's like, yeah, that's her, let's take her. And he's like, please, look at all the cellulite falling out of her shorts. I mean, he said something funny, like she's got more cottage cheese hanging out or cellulite or something. You make a sandwich, and the other guy's like, oh, it ain't that bad. Besides, look at those boobs and stuff like that. And I'm like, Jesus Christ. My God. I'm so glad I was born the way I was born. But, so they figure, okay, well, yeah, she'll do as another dead girl sex slave. Well, their bright, brilliant their bright, brilliant plan is that Wheeler's gonna walk up to her and offer her to sell her some weed, and that it will be in the trunk. So he walks up, and now this is a fucking cowboy looking girl. You know what I mean? She's built. She looks like one of those Karens that would beat your ass at a country bar. That's what she looks like. So she follows him back to the trunk, and you can tell she's got attitude, because she's like, all right, you're probably full of shit. That better look good. I mean, this better be some quality weed, because if you try to sell me any bullshit, And they open up the trunk, and she's like, I don't even see anything in there. And she bends over, and AJ clocks her with a tire iron. And she stands up, and she turns around and looks at him like, what the fuck was that? And then these streams of blood come down. So I mean, it obviously hurt, a little bit. And I kept thinking, is she gonna fall? I was like, is she gonna fall, or is she all right? Right? Because I mean, she does have some blood coming down. Well, she looked at them like, I cannot fucking believe that you just did that. How dumb can you be? And then she proceeds to beat the absolute fuck out of both of them. And I thought, that was pretty funny. That was pretty funny. Because she kicked their ass. And then she walked away going, you dumb motherfuckers, and stuff like that. And I'm like, that was pretty good. I like that. So it didn't work. So as they're sitting there, all of a sudden they hear a bang on the window, and they turn around, and it's Joanne. And she's like, screaming at them, what the fuck did you do to my boyfriend? Because, John, who had his ass blow up in the bathroom, that is her boyfriend. So she's found them, and she's like, what the fuck did y'all do to my boyfriend? And then I thought to myself, girl, you need to run. Do you know what they're sitting in this park doing? And you just walk up and say, take me, basically. Which is exactly what the fuck they did. It's like, oh, well, she'll do. So they take her back to that place. Now, what they don't know is that Rick is on the way to that place, too. he was going back to finally finish off, once and for all, this thing, this whole situation. So he goes back with the intention of freeing this girl, I guess, or in some way stopping all this. Maybe go ahead and burn the place down like he had mentioned before. So he gets there and he walks into the room, and there's Joanne tied up on this pole opposite the dead girl. They're tied back to back on this pole. And so, like, he's like, what the fuck? I mean, right, this is a girl he's had a crush on since 4th grade. So AJ and Wheeler, they start trying to convince him that this is all for the best, right? I mean, you've always wanted her. Now you can have her forever. And I kept thinking to myself, yeah, but as a dead zombie, what is it? Really? I mean, I know Kitty makes you people crazy, but goddamn, Jesus, the fuck? So she's sitting there, they keep arguing with him about it. And he's like, no, I don't think I want to do that. And they're like, but she doesn't like you. She would rather die than be with you in real life up there. Down here, though, you can have it all. So they're using all of their psycho logic to try to bring him to the dark side, which, he ain't got too far to go. He's not all there himself. If because I could have done something about this shit a long time ago. But, Wheeler starts, like, messing with her. And he's like, don't do that. Don't touch her. And I was like, yeah, that's probably not a good idea because he's fucking psychotically obsessed with her to begin with. And even and even JT, was like, dude, I don't think that's a good idea. Well, obviously it wasn't. And I thought to myself, you do know that Rick's holding a machete, right? I think if you're messing with this girl he's got a crush on, you're standing there and ignoring him as he tells you not to touch her while he's holding a big machete, do you think this is a wise course of action that you're taking? Well, obviously it wasn't, because he put his hands on her tits and he cut Wheeler's hand off. So Wheeler was quite stunned and asked him, why did you do that? I was like, duh. Because you're all fucking nuts. But still, it goes without saying, why did you have to ask that question? So, Wheeler's laying there, trying not to bleed to death. Now, meanwhile, with all of this shit going on, Joanne is back here, undoing the ties. Now, I thought, half of that's a good idea. I mean, you are trying to get away. And I do realize that you are unaware of the situation to which you find yourself in, and that you are tied to a zombie. So I understand it's a catch-22. A normal person would be trying to free themselves. A normal person would probably think they're just tied to another girl. They probably wouldn't cross their mind that they're tied to a fucking zombie that they probably shouldn't let go. So you can't really fault her. It's personally a no-win situation, in my opinion. So she wheedles back there, and she manages to get the zombie untied, right? And zombie immediately goes fucking apeshit. Jumps on Wheeler, is like ravishing him. JT runs up. Wow, what is that? What could possibly be the cross connection to cause that? I don't know. JT immediately runs up to Wheeler and is like, man, I gotta take you out, before you change, before it happens. It's like, so that's Wheeler's done. It's kind of what you thought about Dwyer. Well, Rick and Joanne, they try to run up these stairs, with that rusty door. There's another rusty door. And they can't get it open. Even with both of their strength and their fear, they can't get it open. Meanwhile, down here, you got JT. I thought that was correct this time. You got JT in mortal battle with the Zed, right? And they go in there. The Zed manages to get a hold of JT and like eats part of his face off, which was pretty gross. And then Rick like come up with an idea, right? He's like, what about this? What if I just get out of the fucking way? Right? This thing is loose. I bet this thing knows outside is outside. So if I just let this thing go, maybe it will just go. So it runs at him, and he like does some kung fu shit and jumps out of the way. And he's right. The thing runs up the stairs, kicks open that door, and Zombie is out into the night. However, he sits there and has a little exchange with fucked up JT with half a face, who is obviously now going to turn, right? You would assume. And then he notices that Joanne is looking kind of funny, standing there. She was bit right across the back. That thing bit her as she was getting out. So he could either kill her or he could let her turn. You know. I got way ahead of myself, didn't I? They run. AJ finishes Wheeler off. Rick, Joanne try to get out. AJ and the dead girl fight. She bites JT. Rick lets her get past him. She gets out. Joanne has been bit too. Next thing you see is Rick at school. And he's looking all bright and cheerful and happy. And I'm like, yeah, you know, I have a feeling I know exactly why he's all bright and cheery and happy. And it shows him like leaving school, and it's all like the yellow brick road, and you keep expecting Dorothy to show up and start singing with him because he looks so happy. And you see him walking towards his house, and then you see him walking to the hospital where he now has Joanne strapped down in this pretty dress. I guess he's keeping her clean and everything, unlike JT did to the other one. So he's got her all pretty in her white dress and all, and it zooms in on her face, and she's the dead girl now, and she opens her eyes, and the movie ends, and you're like, man, that was all disturbing. That was all very disturbing. And you know, I could say, from my side of the fence, I could holler a lot of stuff about vagina and straight guys. But I'm not going to do it. Because it's too easy. It's too obvious. I don't have to say it. I don't have to say it. You can't even make a slipcase to a movie that doesn't give you away, because you don't think that isn't obvious, do you? So what's the point? I do feel it though. I feel it. Okay, so I couldn't hold it completely, but I did muffle it. I don't think you understood what I said. But I don't think you have to. I think you know. Now, this movie is a 9 out of 10. So why is it a 9 out of 10 when I love it so much? Well, first of all, the nudity is unbalanced. You cannot be showing this naked girl and make her and exposing herself all through the movie, every which way imaginable, and I mean everything. And once again, like Rob Zombie or something, you can't show any of the guys' asses. What's up with that? That just doesn't make any sense at all. So you got points knocked off for that. Everybody has their judgments and values, and this is the values that I place. Now, what got it another half point knocked off? Why is it a 9 or a 10? We have a serious editing issue. Now, first of all, there's one that can't be explained, and that is Where's AJ? Not in this movie. Where's JT? JT is in this movie. AJ is not. Where is JT? Did Rick kill him? Because he couldn't have killed him before he turned, because Joanne fucking turned like that. And he sat there and talked with JT for quite a while, with like all of this missing. It was pretty nasty. So does he just like have him like sitting somewhere? So not letting us know what happened to JT was an issue with me. And then here's the other one. In the deleted scenes, which are really great, I understood everyone. But then they got to a deleted scene that said losing Dwyer. And I was like, okay. And then they showed what they did with Dwyer, because I had wondered what they did with Dwyer. Well, what they did was they put him in the back of a car, and they took him out along the, this road with a steep embankment. And they took him out. It was a very cool scene. It was only like barely 3 minutes, maybe 2.5 minutes, maybe 3, But they took him out there. They set up a couple of funny things. They took him out. They rolled him down the hill, where he then got up and ran off into the woods. And I'm like, why the fuck would you take that out of the movie, man? I already wondered what happened to Dwyer. What did they do to him? And you filmed it. You had it. And you cut it out for what reason? First of all, it's already interesting to know now that you got the dead girl and she's free and loose, but you've also got Dwyer. Dwyer is also free and loose. So you got two Zeds running around. It looks like the start of a zombie apocalypse, in my opinion. It could have been you could definitely take it in that direction. And I'm like, well, why the fuck wouldn't you show us what happened to Dwyer? Especially since it was pretty funny. It was pretty cool. What Wheeler and JT said to each other, as they tried to get him out, it's like, don't let him bite you, and the jocks are so heavy. Athletic types. But to know that Dwyer had turned, and they showed him, they showed it, and his eyes were doing the same thing the dead girl's was, and he had that pallor look thing. They look cool. He looked cool. And so he's alive. He's not well, but he's alive. So you have Dwyer running around, and you have the dead girl, but you wouldn't know that about Dwyer unless you watch the deleted scenes. And I'm like, there is no justification whatsoever for you having cut that out of the movie and leaving someone. You never want to leave the audience left with a simple question. I'm not talking about some kind of hypothetical debate, I'm talking about a simple question. What happened to Dwyer? Why would you cut that out? It was only 2 minutes long. And not only did it answer an important question, a relevant question, but it left you with more imagination fuel. I think it was a very stupid mistake on their parts. To one, not let you know what happened to JT, and two, to do that. So it's only a 9 out of 10. I cannot forgive you for those two things, because that was cutting out what they did with Dwyer was like a gaffe of Ishtar proportions. That was stupid. I would love the director to just come into the comments and tell me, what the fuck did you do that for? It makes no sense. There's no way you could justify it. Now, and don't even come to my channel and talk to me about the nudity thing, because that's just pointless. That's just pointless. Why you people think it's okay to strip naked, women naked in movies, but you won't show the crack of a guy's ass because of something? I don't know. It's very objectification. Not that a movie called Dead Girl about a bunch of little perverts keeping a zombie sex slave is not objectification. But there's no reason to add to it in real life by going, ooh, you know, JT can hump this Z all the time. We can show everything she's got, but we don't want to show JT's butt because that would be naughty. What? They're humping a Z tied up sex slave in a basement. There's not much more room you could do. Of course, I said the same thing about Rob Zombie. I mean, you might as well show an internal autopsy of a female in a Rob Zombie movie, and yet he won't show you the crack of a guy's ass. There's some really weird shit. If you're that scared of a guy's ass, you need therapy. That's all I can tell you. After all, look at what I had to watch. And you can't watch a dude's ass for 2 seconds? Come on. Grow up. Be a man. You'll be all right. So that was Dead Girl. It is a 9 out of 10. If they'd have left that scene in with Dwyer, because I think it was so fascinating and it added to it, for me to know for a fact that Dwyer and the Dead Girl are roaming free as these zombies was really important. I mean, it really added a flavor to the movie to know these two Zeds are like on the loose, about to probably cause a zombie apocalypse, according to how much they want to bite people, right? Because they did seem ready to bite people. Like when they were getting Dwyer out of the back of the thing, all he did was get close to him, and Dwyer was like, he tried to get a piece. So, I don't know. But yeah. So that was a very bad editing gaffe. There's absolutely no reason. I mean, the movie was already 141 minutes. 143 wouldn't have made it any different, baby. And it would have answered a question and left you with more imagination fuel. But I knew Rick was sick all along because him keeping her tied up down there now, Joanne, this person. I mean, I knew he was sick all along. He just didn't seem to be quite as sick as JT and Wheeler, but in the end, he turned out to be just as sick because he's got this poor girl zombified and tied up in a basement to come back and do things to them. Disturbing movie. Well, why did you get it? I fucking love it. It's good. It's just a great story. I can put my own imagination into it. But this is Dead Girl. This is the Unearthed Films Special Collector's Edition remaster of the 2008 zombie classic Dead Girl. I really like it. 9 out of 10. If not for the editing gaffe, which is just retarded. And then the, of course, automatic deduction for unfair, unbalanced nudity. Love you, miss you, bye. Oh, you're so silly. Well, I'm sure your rules about some movies probably I would call silly as well. We all judge things the way we judge them. We have our own criteria. And, unbalanced nudity will get you half a point knocked off. There you go. Take it. Leave it. Think about that next time you make a movie if you give a shit. And an editing gaffe like, just leaving us not knowing what happened to Dwyer, and then you had it filmed and then just left it out for no apparent reason is just stupid. And the AJ when you can't do nothing about because it wasn't in the deleted scene. So I don't know what the fuck you did with. You didn't do anything with AJ because he's not in this movie. But TJ, you didn't show us what happened to TJ, and goddamn, I need to go get something to eat. Love you, Mr. Bye. I'll talk to you later. Oh, gosh. Always remember, never forget, you're a very, very special person. DNA proves it. Even if you wouldn't be a special person if you got some shit like that going on in your life. We just won't even go there. Love you, miss you, bye. Always remember, never forget, you're a very special person. No matter what anybody tells you, DNA proves it. And I will see you in the next thing I do. That was 2008's cult classic zombie film, Dead Girl. Bye-bye.